Hi friends, Rusty back here. Central Florida Weather Live. We are live. It's pretty early on this Friday morning, 9:13 in the morning. I'm on because you can see what's happening right now through the Nature Coast, the Big Bend area of Central Florida. Wanted to jump on and cover this for you here. This is a segment of the storms that brought all of the heavy wind and rain and destruction to the Houston area yesterday. A piece of that energy held together and rolled across the north central Gulf of Mexico overnight and has now made its way inland here to portions of Central Florida. So I wanted to come on, talk about what's happening right now. Some of the good news, you're going to see that we're going to see a few of these severe thunderstorm warnings expire here very shortly. And the National Weather Service has issued several. This one, as it moved on shore towards Cedar Key and Inglis, was producing potentially up to 70-mile-per-hour winds. Again, this is what we call a bow echo segment, and by far the issue with this line as it's been moving inland is going to be the wind gust threat, especially along the immediate coast. The thought that I have is that we are going to see these storms begin to diminish in intensity, especially with the wind as they move inland, but they do bear watching at least for a time because there is a ton of wind energy. Maybe you have seen some of the video out of Houston. Now, again, it's not going to play out the same, but for this to hold together and roll all across the north central Gulf of Mexico overnight shows you that within this complex of storms, there's really a lot of instability. So again, we lost the severe thunderstorm warning in our northern areas. We still have a severe thunderstorm warning that is going to continue for a lot of Citrus County. It's going to be for Citrus County, Northwest Sumter, Central Pasco, Hernando, and southeastern Levy counties, and that does go until 9:45. So as you can see, for the next half hour, this severe thunderstorm warning. The main criteria for the severe thunderstorm warning is winds of 60 miles an hour. Now, on the northern side of that, they replace the severe thunderstorm warning with a special weather statement, and that's going to include the Denellen area as it rolls off towards the east. We'll see how it plays out in Ocala, but if nothing else, there is some heavier rain coming your way there. A little bit of lightning with this. You can see the lightning strike counter, but by far the biggest concern that I have is going to be the wind. So looking at that, I'm going to switch over to our base velocity product here. This is just going to allow me to basically query the winds within this line. And again, when we see the brighter greens, we're going to see some stronger winds. And, again, up to 60 miles an hour, certainly from time to time. And you can see here, we're getting winds of well over 40 miles an hour on the coastal areas of Hernando County. So from Crystal River, Citrus County south, the winds do begin to pick up here. And you can see, and actually as we get closer to the radar site in Tampa, we are getting into even lower cuts of the atmosphere. So this is even more closer to the ground. And again, here, right along US 19, just north of the Hudson area, as you get into Pasco County, you do see some winds of up to at least 50 miles an hour. There's a 57, 58. So right along the immediate coast, we've had some extremely heavy winds. And again, those winds are a little bit stronger even towards Bayonet Point there in the Hudson area and moving inland a bit. So this is the concern with this segment, is that as it comes on shore, it's going to produce some damaging, potentially even destructive winds, potentially some smaller sized hail. But today, the threat is going to be more about the winds. We do have a special weather statement that's now in effect as far south as the Clearwater area, including Dunedin and Town and Country, the Carrollwood area, Tarpon Springs, and Holiday. So again, it's a beefy line. It's pretty well held together, and there is a little bit of activity developing ahead of it as well. And some of this could try and work its way towards Metro Orlando. Now look, this is not severe, but you can kind of see that wind energy has pushed out some rain to Dade City, the southern sides of Lake County right now, the northern sides of Polk County, and this is all tracking off towards the east. Again, in general, my expectations of this line is that it does begin to weaken as it moves inland. So we'll see as these line segments pull closer to I-75 whether they reissue those severe thunderstorm warnings. But again, this is some really rough weather right now for our friends in Citrus County, Pasco, Hernando counties. Again, very heavy rain to go along with this, and just continuing to move off towards the east. You can see again, looking at from this segment here, some of the times of arrival. And again, that's been just moving on shore. So that one's a little bit of an older one there, just kind of following that severe weather. There's a little cell there towards Bayonet Point. I mentioned that. Again, everything right now, just to get an idea, is generally moving off towards the east at around 30 miles an hour. You're not going to see a lot of larger hail, more than likely pinged out of this. Not expecting any rotation in any major way. If we were going to see that again, I think it would be right there where we are coming off of the water and we've got that land interaction and the friction difference. These are generally straight line winds, but they're howling. And again, if you're just tuning in, this is the same segment, if you can believe it, that actually impacted Houston last night. It literally held together this small complex of storms, and it raced across the north central Gulf of Mexico. So yes, this was a little bit surprising to see it come on this morning, but as I got up and I looked at it, I knew if it held together, it was going to prompt some severe thunderstorm warnings, and that's exactly what it's done. So here's our special weather statement up for portions of Marion County and Levy County. You can see again, when it was issued, they've cut it off, but for places like Ocala, you're looking at that area moving in at around 9:38. So about 19 minutes for some of the more intense activity. Again, this is not from the leading edge, but it is from where I do expect there to see a little bit more intensity here. So really just up and down this line, it's going to be a pretty rough morning here if you are traveling Highway 19 or I-75. We're now even towards the turnpike. Our friends in Wildwood in the Villages area, this nasty weather's coming in. By the way, let me get the chat up just in case if you have a specific question about the forecast, would like to comment, drop it in the comment section below. Appreciate you tuning in. Again, this is one reason why I started this channel, is that when things like this pop up across all of Central Florida, I can jump on, we can cover it live for however long that I deem it necessary. And again, this can be at all different times of the day. So you're, getting some coverage at times that maybe you wouldn't expect, but that's what we want to do here at Central Florida Weather Live. Mother Nature doesn't care about our clocks, do they? They don't care about what times we would want to see the weather. Sometimes it happens here in the mid-morning hours. So again, some storms that I'll be following into the southwest sides of Lake County. Basically anything out ahead of this is more congested. There's not going to be as much wind, but it is going to bring some heavier rain once again. And, I'll be watching just how far south this wants to track. We'll see if it can get into the metro Tampa area. Right now, it's just kind of slipping to the north. Palm Harbor and Carrollwood. There are obviously special marine warnings that will expire as those storms move inland, but Holiday and Land O'Lakes and Newport Richey, the 589, by the way, that is going to be your Veterans Expressway, which living in Citrus County, I was very sad that they built this after I moved because it was a bear to get down to Tampa. You would have to go all the way to 75, but that's the Veterans Expressway there just west of 4198. And again, you can see some of this congested stuff and just heavier rain as it continues to move through. Right now, this is a very large severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect until 9:45. And again, I'll read off the counties. You can clearly see them though as well. Citrus County, Northwest Sumter, Central Pasco County, Hernando County, Southeastern Levy counties. And again, the threat's going to be winds of 60 miles an hour. So that's what it looks like as far as reflectivity. This is what it looks like as far as actual winds. And again, we're querying the radar out of Tampa, and we can see that very close to the Tampa radar site, we continue to pick up winds of nearly 50 or even over 50 miles an hour just east of the Port Richey, Newport Richey area. Going to be picking up in places like Land O'Lakes pretty soon. And again, just basically up 19 into the east, Bayonet Point and Hudson. You can see again, it's pretty solid winds. There's not just one little area. This is a wide swath of 40, 50. It looks like I even picked up a little 60-mile-an-hour wind gust there. So we're getting to the teetering point of seeing some damaging or even destructive winds. I mean, 60 is a pretty solid wind to have here, and it does prompt severe thunderstorm warnings. And again, that goes for the next 22 minutes. And again, you can see that green moving in. So the question will be, this is some rough weather here for our friends along the coastline. And if you're viewing us in this area, you got a question, for that location, just let me know. The question will be how strong the winds stay for the next batch of populated areas like Hernando and Inverness and Floral City and Spring Hill. And then eventually, does it hold together into Sumter County, Wildwood, and getting closer to Lake Pan and Bushnell, places like that, Dade City there as well. And, is there a reissuing of this? And you can see that ahead of it, we are getting a little bit of lightning strikes. Now, within this region, here in Lake County, northern Polk County, not a lot of wind, but there is some lightning beginning to pick up as well. So right now it's all about the wind along the coastline, but we'll see as these storms march in how they hold together. Again, we can take a look at the hail, and I'm putting that on right now, and you notice that basically it's devoid of anything with the hail. So not nearly as concerned with the hail as I was a couple of days ago. It's kind of a completely different scenario. This is more about a complex of storms that really held together, and as it has raced across the north central Gulf of Mexico, it has provided a lot of wind energy. Again, this is the same piece, if you will, segment of what came out of Houston yesterday. And if you saw some of that video, man, oh man, again, not the same scenario for us, but the fact that this is what came out of that really is quite impressive. As a matter of fact, let's go over here to the composite radar. I'm going to zoom this out, and I'm going to loop this over the last 6 hours. And well, again, the radar doesn't want to loop sometimes. That could be frustrating, I got to be honest. There we go. It finally picked up. So you can see what I'm talking about here. Watch this complex over the last 6 hours race across the north central Gulf of Mexico. So it came out of Houston, right? And it basically just trucked right over Louisiana, portions of coastal Mississippi, Alabama, and then through our panhandle. But a very serious complex of storms. And you can see how that bow actually got a little bit tighter right there. I'm gonna, like right about there. Watch it kind of pick up right there. And that's about when I woke up this morning and I said, all right, well, here we go. More than likely, we're going to have something that we need to jump on and talk about, at least for a time, in our western zones. Just a lot of wind energy coming with that. You can see the severe thunderstorm warnings that it prompted, and the one that's still currently in effect, still a pretty large area. So that's the scenario as it's played out here. Hi, Kathy. Will Orange County start to feel the winds and the rain? Well, again, I think it's honestly a wait and see approach. I do expect that these storms will begin to lose some of their wind energy as they move inland. There really is a big question as to how quickly that happens. And that's honestly one of the reasons that I'm on right now, is I want to track these in real time for you guys as well to see how the wind energy holds. Now, we did lose some of the wind up in Levy County, which is why we no longer have a severe thunderstorm warning there. So I'm going to be very curious to see as we go over the next 20 minutes and these storms get deeper into Citrus County and then into the central and the eastern sides of Pasco and Hernando counties, how we might see the Weather Service play this. Are they going to issue another severe thunderstorm warning east? That would mean winds would still potentially be up to 60 miles an hour, whether they turn it into a special weather statement, which is like one rung below a severe thunderstorm warning. And then this is the gusty winds. I actually do have, I was looking at it right before I came on, and I just turned them up. I actually have the wind gusts up right now. And if you notice, there's a couple, but as far as reporting stations, Crystal River had a 21 mile an hour wind. That's not bad. Now, my radar's picking up more than that, and generally farther south, it's been picking up some stronger winds. But as far as ground truth reports, as far as, 50 plus, haven't really seen it much. And I don't believe in the warning itself, they discussed any actual reports of those kinds of winds. It's all radar indicated. Yeah. So Kathy, it is a wait and see approach, but that's why I'm on right now. If you noticed that, by the way, there is a new special weather statement that just got issued right up here, and it is kind of butting up across the Ocala area. It now does include Bellevue as well. So looking at from where they issued, actually here, I got to do one thing. Let's see, let's get off of our composite radar. We're going to get back to the Tampa radar. Should allow me to look at this line segment here, hopefully. Well, might have to reset it. That's okay. Let me reset this real quick. Just go like this. Excellent. So here you go. So special weather statements up in portions of Marion County, and that will include the Ocala areas as well. And then again down here, we have our severe thunderstorm warning, and it does go until 9:45. Now out ahead of it, again, we are seeing some heavier rain now developing across Lady Lake. And I think a lot of folks are going to be a little bit surprised by this as well. Another reason why I wanted to jump on is that even if you're not going to see severe weather, this is going to impact a large portion of our area. Probably a little bit of surprise rain. Maybe you need to run an errand on this Friday morning. You got a doctor's appointment. Again, take us with you here on the YouTube app, Central Florida Weather Live. That's one reason why I wanted to do this as well, is you can follow us on the go. And I know some of you have been doing that, and I appreciate that. It's kind of one of the main reasons that we're doing this as well. Let's see here. I want to get the lightning data back on as well. Here we go. Okay. So lightning data is on. And we're looking out of the Tampa radar here. So again, nice live sweeps out of the Tampa radar. And you can continue to see that. I do want to try and get the lightning live count to come back up here. So give me just 1 second. Every so often, got to do that. All right. Didn't just disappear on me, did it? Sometimes these boxes, you can hide them. There's so much going on. I literally just dragged them off of screen. So again, if you're just tuning in, severe thunderstorm warning continues for a good part of our western coastal areas, including the Nature Coast. It's going to be portions of Citrus County, northwest Sumter, central Pasco, Hernando, southern Levy counties until 9:45. This is a very large complex of storms that basically raced across the north central Gulf of Mexico overnight and has been producing some strong to severe winds. And that's going to be the main threat out of these storms, is the strong to severe winds. So looking at that wind threat right now, again, we could see winds up to 60 miles an hour. Haven't had any ground truth reports as of yet. I do believe that the wind threat is not as significant right now up through Citrus County. You can see the winds that we're pinging there are not severe criteria. I'm looking for the brighter greens. Those are indications of stronger winds. So you get into Hernando County and some of that starts to pick up again. It's not, 30, 40. Is gusty. It could knock down a palm frond, could knock down a loose limb. It's not going to generally cause any widespread issues. If we get above 40 and then closer to 50, those are the areas that I'm more concerned of some sustained wind energy that could cause a few problems. And, power outages could always accompany this, especially if it knocks down the wrong branch. But you're looking at 40 to getting closer to 50. And I mentioned Land O'Lakes earlier. Now Land O'Lakes is starting to pick that up. Winds there are beginning to get into that 40, 50 mile an hour range. This is where the severe thunderstorm warning cuts off on the southern side, but there is a special weather statement for winds of up to 50 miles an hour. You can clearly see, again, the criteria here. If I move that out of the way, you can clearly see the criteria of the yellow box. It's very simplistic on this system. It allows you guys to see some of the information without me just having to repeat it over and over again. So again, very clearly special weather statement for the next 13 minutes for winds of 50 miles an hour for all the areas in the yellow polygon. It does include our friends in Town and Country, Clearwater, Dunedin, Palm Harbor, Tarpon Springs, Holiday, the Lutz area, Land O'Lakes as well. So this will try and sneak into the far northern sides of Tampa, basically just to the south there of 275. South of I-4 for the most part as well. We'll see how this tracks east and whether it begins to move closer to the I-4 corridor in Polk County. But again, hopefully these winds begin to lighten up a little bit as they move inland. Good morning, Michelle. Is Dade City in the warning area? Dade City is not in the warning area, Michelle, but you guys are close. So there's your red polygon right there. There's Dade City. I mean, obviously, and I'll switch over to the reflectivity here. You guys are starting to get some heavier rain, right? You can see it's a good pocket of heavy rain and some lightning in your area. You are just east of that severe thunderstorm warning. It expires in the next 12 minutes, though. So the question is, do they extend it east? And the reason why they would extend it east into your area is because they still think that storm could produce winds of 60 miles an hour. That is the minimum wind criteria for a severe thunderstorm warning, okay? If they don't think it's going to produce that, then they may issue that special weather statement, which still is acknowledging that we could have some rough weather, but not severe criteria. Again, however, you could still get some winds of 40 to 50 miles an hour. It's going to be noisy and hopefully not cause any damage. But yes, the opportunity for at least some strong storms moving in. And stick with me, Michelle. We'll see in the next 12 minutes whether the Weather Service reissues that warning for your area or whether they turn it into a special weather statement. But you can clearly see, guys, how quickly some of this has developed ahead of the main line. Again, none of this is going to be severe, but it is getting deeper very quickly into Lake County, Mascot and Groveland and Cleveland Claremont towards Mineola. Some showers are developing right over Lake Buena Vista right now. So our friends at the attractions, give them a heads up. It's just some light rain. It's nuisance rain right now on the southwest side of Orange County, but it's developing, and folks will going to want their ponchos and go on to keep an eye to the weather out west because there is a fair amount of lightning to go along with that as well. Give me 1 second here, guys. I'm going to just do a quick reset. I want to make sure I get that live lightning count back on. By the way, if you guys noticed that the polygon issue was fixed, that was just a little bit of data issue. Also, I did add additional cities to the bottom of your screen here, and so that's good news. We wanted to bring more of that, so you're going to see even more cities, including my hometown of Crystal River. I had to put them on there. I'm sure you guys will understand that. So I wanted to reset this because I want to get this lightning count to come back on. A lot of times when I fiddle around with this thing, there's so much that every so often it hiccups, and from time to time we might lose just one thing real quick here. So I see a couple of questions I want to answer. I do want to make sure I do a few things with the radar here first. I want to go back into our storm cell tracking mode. Now, there's no watch, by the way. There's no watch. And it looks like they might have dumped the warning as well. So before we even do that, let's see here. Let me go back here to the Weather Service and see whether they have dumped this warning, just to verify. No, it doesn't look like they have, actually. So I'm not honestly sure why my computer is no longer showing that warning, because I see, let's see here. Give me just 1 second, guys. I want to just double check this. They did allow the one to expire early, so I'm just double checking that that's not the same scenario here with the one that was in effect. Doesn't appear to be, though. Interesting. All right. Why did we lose that warning then? That I don't know. So there's our special marine warnings. Just gonna do something real quick, guys. I'm just gonna zoom out. We have our severes here, so it is picking up severes, right? I'm just testing it out. So here's the deal. Sometimes this system is faster than even what you can find online. And it surprises me some how quickly that this receives the information. There is an opportunity that they have canceled the warning, but I can't find it yet. They did. This is how good this system is, guys. It picked up the data so fast that it surprised me when I reset the radar. I thought that we had lost that data. But actually what happened was that the Weather Service had allowed that warning to expire early. They canceled it early. And it wasn't even up on any of the National Weather Service websites yet. So it had me a little bit confused there. But obviously it's good news, right? That they were looking at this segment and they said, you know what, we don't see 60-mile-an-hour winds. So we'll see if they replace it with a special weather statement. So let's get back over here. So Michelle, for you, I want to follow this up for you, Michelle, in Dade City. Very heavy rain. If you wouldn't mind jumping back on and let me know what you're feeling right now. A fair amount of lightning. Probably some pretty noisy weather. Might be just a little bit heavier just to your south. If you live south of Dade City, I think it would be a little bit worse compared to if you live north of Dade City. Again, there is a nice little cell right there that my radar has picked up, moving off towards the east. But again, below severe criteria. Could be producing some very small pea-sized hail, but that would be about it. Hi, Lydia says, hi, Rusty. Have family driving down from Chicago today, tomorrow. Any idea if they could have nasty weather to drive through? Thank you. I appreciate it, Lydia. We can take a look at that here in just a minute. First of all, this is going to be kind of the only game in town. All right. I don't really have any big concerns overall for Central Florida after this. Again, this was a little bit surprising because what happened was this complex of storms was actually what came out of the Houston area yesterday. And if you saw what happened in Houston, you just find a piece of video or read a news article about it, they got hammered. I mean, hammered. Really, really bad stuff there in the Houston metro area with wind and some flooding. And this chunk of storms held together and moved across the north central Gulf of Mexico overnight and then slammed into the Nature Coast this morning. So the biggest concern I had was going to be the winds out of this. Now, this will be racing through. As I stated, we should lose some of the energy with this as it comes off towards the east, and then things will quiet back down. This is it for today, okay? But we got to get through this. Again, you can see in Lake County right now, the rain and the storms have picked up. Groveland and Claremont down south of 3327. The rain over the Lake Buena Vista area as well. So again, part of why I want to come on too is to talk about the fact that, you know, we're going to have some impacts to your outdoor plans this morning. You know, it's already beginning to rain lightly at the attractions. Maybe you want to play around a golf, right? Maybe you want to play around a golf, but you might be impacted by these storms that continue to march in. Now, without any severe thunderstorm warnings, that's great news, but these can still be fairly impactful. And again, up in the southern sides of Marion County, we still have our special weather statement. Now, the special weather statement is actually a little bit lower in intensity than what the last one was. So severe thunderstorm was at 60 miles an hour winds. The first severe special weather statement was 50 mile an hour winds. Now we're down to 40 mile an hour winds. So this is all on track, what I expected it to be. Heaviest part of the cell will be racing through Bellevue here fairly quickly. And really, Bellevue has had some of that heavier rain already. And again, just kind of taking a look at some of these areas here. Decent little cell. It's going to try and head towards Astor, Pearson, and De Leon Springs. There's not one major segment to, I believe, focus on here. Again, pinging some higher reflectivity. I think there could be the tiniest of hail within the most stout cores, but it's not a huge concern of mine right now. You can see the heavy rain down 27 for Fruitland Park and a little hole right there, but Leesburg, snarled, I'm sure, for the Turnpike and I-75. It's just, you know, whenever you get wet weather there, and there's 44 that will take you back into the villages, and 301, of course, as well. A few showers trying to develop towards the Eustis area. It's still quite heavy right now across 75. I mean, really just through all of 75. Bushnell, Ridge Manor, as you get back down towards Dade City. Michelle was asking about that area, and again, no severe thunderstorm warning, but we're getting a little bit more lightning down there, and it does still linger back into the northern sides of the Tampa area, including Carrollwood, Northdale, Town and Country, Citrus Park, Oldsmar there, Safety Harbor, going to kind of scrape the northern sides of Tampa a little bit heavier, so up the Veterans Expressway there, 275, up towards the 275, 75 interchange. Right now, I-4 in Polk County is looking good if you need to do some traveling there. But again, there's certainly some rain out ahead of it that continues to develop. Swig of water time. And actually, if you guys don't mind, I've got my coffee here too. I had one cup when I was taking my kids to school this morning, but this is the second cup. By the way, this is a cup from the Durango-Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad. My family visited Durango, Colorado a couple of years ago. We took the Narrow Gauge Railroad from Durango up towards Silverton. I don't know if any of you have ever been in that area. It's absolutely gorgeous country. Silverton is in a very high altitude. I think it's over 8,000 feet. I mean, you could almost really feel it, but that narrow gauge railroad trip from Durango to Silverton and back, and you do it in one day, was a really, really neat experience. We got these mugs as a part of a thank you gift. So I enjoy them because some of the mugs that I have, it keeps the coffee way too hot. Keeps it way, way, way too hot for too long. This I know is going to get cold, so I'm going to have a couple more sips. Okay. So I'll say we'll reset. And Lydia here, I have no problem. We'll show you the model coming from Chicago to Tampa, or we said Central Florida. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Let's reset this real quick, guys. Again, if you're just tuning in, came on live this morning because we had some severe thunderstorm warnings that were issued for our far western areas. And of course, I cover all of Central Florida weather here. Central Florida weather live, west to east coast, north to south, across our entire area. The main concern was the winds. This was a complex of storms that raced through the north central Gulf of Mexico overnight, and was the parent storm was the one that caused all of the damage in Houston last night. So a lot of wind energy with this. As it's moved inland, the winds have weakened, and so we no longer have any severe thunderstorm warnings. We have a few special weather statements, but for a lot of Sumter and a lot of Lake, and eventually into Orange and portions of Seminole and maybe even Volusia counties and areas north, Marion County and Flagler counties, all with the opportunity to see a round of showers and storms coming in. They should stay below severe criteria. The general thought that I have is that these storms will continue to weaken some as they move off towards the east, but at least for a little bit of time, they bear watching here. I'm going to continue to follow these. And again, if you have a specific question about a specific area, drop it in the comments section below. If you have a chance to hit the like button on this live stream, I really appreciate it. It does help out the channel. The more interaction that we get, the more that YouTube actually recommends this channel. And again, one of the hardest things you can do, and I did it with Media Mundo starting up last year, and by the way, we're somewhere near 10,000 subscribers now, is just to have people realize you exist, right? That this is available for them, that there is a channel that they can watch whenever anything goes on weather-wise in Central Florida. And again, this is a kind of channel where you can tune in, and if you live in Brevard County today, things are going to be relatively quiet. You go, okay, Rusty's covering things out to the north and to the west. I don't really have to worry about it, or I'll check back in with them later. Or it's right over your area, and you can follow with me live here as these storms work your way in. Again, have a lot of advanced technology. Heard a rumble of thunder there. So again, it's all marching in. And the other reason I wanted to jump on here, even if this is not severe, at least for a time, is this was a little bit surprising, right? Didn't expect the morning round of storms today, and that's simply because would have never guessed that the storms that were developing in Houston, and that was something that we saw coming, we're going to hold together and work their way all the way into our area here this morning. But that's exactly what's going on this early Friday morning. Again, we're live here at 9:45. You can see some of the local conditions in your area off on the bottom side of your screen. The main threat is going to continue to be wind, okay? But even that threat looks to be diminishing a bit. Now, again, my radar algorithm will always let me know if it thinks there's a possibility of some hail. So it says that within this cell south of Dade City, there could be some smaller sized hail, okay? Less than a ½ inch. I mean, more than likely, this is just some pea-sized hail, if it's even out there. There's another couple of ways that I can look at this as well. I can actually go to a product in that same radar and say, hey, what is the mean hail size? Okay, and I want you to notice that there's some very light pinks here, all right? And so it's trying to say, look, there is an opportunity that within this little area here around Dade City, that there could be some extremely, extremely small hail. Now, more than likely, this is just kind of some heavier rain, but you get the idea that that's what I'm looking for there as well. There is a little bit of lightning around this core. It's probably just a very intense area of heavy rain. And again, maybe a little bit of very small hail there. But the concern for hail is not nearly as significant as what it was as we got into a couple days ago. So also notice that back down here into the northern sides of Hillsborough County, that they have allowed that special weather statement to expire. So no longer, and the weather really was never that bad for Citrus Park and Lutz and Carrollwood and Town and Country, Temple Terrace area, moving up towards the east. And again, so Michelle says south of Dade City is pouring with lightning, not a lot of wind. Thanks, Michelle. Yes, that's what I'm looking at as well. The wind threat appears to be coming down here, especially when, again, the wind threat was greatest when these were all lined up together in that bow, right before they moved on shore. Now they're all just kind of congested. And it was the same scenario as we had a couple days ago, where once these storms just started developing and all the wind fields were all, disrupted, we were never going to have any one area or a large area with very strong winds. So that's why, the Weather Service is looking at this as well. And they said, look, we're just not going to get severe criteria winds out of this. We don't have severe criteria hail, so we can't issue severe thunderstorm warnings. But again, it doesn't mean that we're not going to see some rowdier storms here. And they've really actually kind of expanded in nature a bit as well. As a matter of fact, here, if I switch over real quick, just to our composite radar, okay? So this is all of the NEXRAD sites together. You can see that this is going all the way up into South Georgia right now as well. And since I'm showing you this, if you're just tuning in, I'm going to let this loop up real quickly here. It takes a second or two for the radar to want to loop up as well. I believe I have to do it under what's called seamless here. Let's see. There we go. This is what prompted the severe thunderstorm warnings. I'm going to pause it right about there, okay? First of all, a couple things to note. It's a smaller area, more concentrated storms. They're lined up in what we call that bow. And again, it's exactly what you think, like a bow in an arrow. And on the apex of that bow, you can have some extremely strong winds. So this is what we call a bow echo. And it was much more pronounced just offshore of Levy and Citrus counties. I mean, you can see them popping off all of these special weather statements, or assuming the special marine warnings. There's your first severe thunderstorm warning right there. So you can see the evolution of this, guys, very clearly on my radar. So as I put this into motion again, notice that now it starts to expand out. This was still some really strong winds. It prompted the severe thunderstorm warnings up and down the coastline just north of Tampa. And then over the last couple of frames, notice how this is really kind of just fallen apart structurally. Okay, so we're taking down some of the most intense part of these cells, but we're expanding the coverage of the heavy rain and the lightning. This was all what I expected. The question I had, and the reason why I jumped on, was how quickly does that evolution occur? Do the 60-mile-an-hour wind potential last at least until I-75 or even off towards the east? It looks like, based on all of this, the answer is no. So that's good news. We'll get back over to our live radar here. And again, looking out of Tampa, still probably the best spot to look at. We'll look at the Melbourne radar here coming up as well. So Michelle talked about the heavy rain coming out of Dade City. Again, yeah, it's cats and dogs there, Zephyr Hills. Still a little pocket of very intense activity just southeast of Dade City. And again, could there be a few hailstones ingested within that? Yes. Now look, for the Metro Orlando area, weather is starting to go downhill a bit. As a matter of fact, now, let me switch over to the radar out of Melbourne here, because I do want to talk about Orlando just a little bit more here now that these storms are getting a little bit closer. So we'll pop on the Melbourne radar, which will give us a good shot of the storms in the western sides of Orange County. Again, right now, nothing is severe, and I don't think anything's going to be. But it's going to be a wet, somewhat stormy afternoon. There is some lightning with this. There's not a ton right now in Lake and Orange counties. If I zoom in just a little bit more here, you can see there's only one lightning strike. And actually, let me just make sure. I want to check the lightning criteria, basically. Let's see, I took it back off again. Let's see here. Yeah, I've got it basically set to medium. And it's so funny. Every weather system is different. This thing can do so much. I can literally tell it to only show me lightning flashes with a certain amount of energy. If I were to make it say, hey, show me every lightning strike, there would literally be, with some storms here in the summertime, so many lightning strikes that it would actually be hard to analyze the radar because it would be covering up all of that information. So I've kind of got it set at the moderate level right now, which is fine because it still lets me track where we have the most intense course. So don't be shocked, even if within this area that's only showing one lightning strike, if you hear a rumble of thunder. It's absolutely possible. Some of that heavier rain is now beginning to come up to 429. So it's going to get wetter in places like Windermere and Winter Garden and Oakland. They're trying to drift towards Ocoee. It's been very heavy rain down 27 and 429. We've talked about how wet it's been over the attractions. Little cell there is trying to get a little bit heavier rain there. That's, I believe, World Drive. That's 535, if I'm not mistaken. There is I-4 and the I-Drive corridor. Just wet for our tourist friends or anyone who works at the attractions. Obviously, in Central Florida, we have a lot of residents who live and work down in the southwest sides of Orange County near Lake Buena Vista, and it's going to be a wet day. If you're one of them, or if you know of someone, make sure that they've got their wet gear here at least for the morning hours as these showers and storms traverse. Now, some of this activity should also begin to fade. So another question is, does this actually hold together as it gets to I-95? Right now, it's still holding together, at least in a scattered variety, as it gets towards I-4, but does it make it all the way towards the coastline? Again, I think it's certainly a watch and wait approach. A little heavier cell with some heavier rain for Bassville Park and Eustis and Umatilla up here in northern Lake County. We'll look at that cell and kind of see what it's telling us here. It says it's moving off towards the east at 52 miles an hour. So it is picking up some forward speed. Again, very small chance for hail. And if there is some hail near Umatilla and Eustis, it's going to be on the smaller side, not destructive in any way, shape, or form. Is that headed towards any areas? Yes, it is. So let's take a look at that. Some of the areas that could be impacted with this stronger cell, if it holds together, is going to be Umatilla in about 13 minutes, Orange City 42, DeLand 43, Deltona 45, Lake Helen 48, and then well after an hour as it heads towards the Daytona coastline. We'll see if it holds together, but you can see that general direction here that one little bit heavier cell is going to be moving into. Again, friends, thanks for tuning in at 9:54 on this Friday morning. Coming to you live here, Central Florida Weather Live. Rusty McCranie, good to see you guys. Hope things have been going well for you. But again, we have a pretty good complex of storms here. It looks to be below severe criteria for the remainder of this event. But if you're just tuning in, we had severe thunderstorm warnings up and down our western areas as that complex of storms moved through. The main threat, really the only threat, was going to be some damaging winds. That was a very strong lightning strike right there. If you saw the flash, that was because of the lightning. So you get the idea that it's going to be there's going to be some decent lightning coming out of this, and I can tell you that for sure. As a matter of fact here, let me drop down this lightning criteria just a little bit. Just a little bit. So now, yeah, we're picking up more. And they have issued a new special weather statement. So there you go. So again, in real time, special weather statement is now in effect. It looks like for a good chunk of Lake County on the north side, the far northwest sides of Orange County, and it looks like into portions of Volusia County as well. And guess what, guys? It was, and I'm telling you right now, for what I was talking about. That right there. Now, obviously, it's not the only game in town, but they saw that heavier part of the line and they just kind of issued for that entire area. Okay. So again, not severe, but lightning, thunder, winds of 40 miles an hour, and that looks to be moving potentially off towards the south and to the east. So looking at the heaviest part of that cell, being back on. Okay, so Mount Plymouth in 35, right? So northern, I mean, it's all coming, but again, the algorithm is picking up on this cell right here, Eustis, Umatilla. So Mount Plymouth here, maybe even a little bit earlier than that, about 31 minutes, let's say a half hour there. Obviously, I'll be watching for Apopka, right? Here's our friends in Apopka, Mount Dora, Mount Plymouth. Again, pretty nasty weather here. Not severe, but it is a special weather statement. And again, noisy storms. Maybe even heard it. And the rain is going to be picking up here, guys. So we'll watch this kind of blast through. Again, watching it for you live here, 9:57 in the morning on this Friday morning, where we're going to have more active weather for the Metro Orlando area. Our friends in Tampa, watching out for you guys as well. You're kind of on the tail end of this line. Could be a few pop-up showers there, but the most intense part of this is off towards your north and east. Now, looking out of the Melbourne radar site, we're a little bit higher in the atmosphere here. So there could, again, be a little bit of hail east of Zephyr Hills, but the hail size is not something I'm very concerned about right now. It's more of just widespread, heavier showers and storms wet weather again moving through Central Florida. Let me, real quickly, guys, go back over and get you the newest information on this special weather statement. All right, so the special weather statement is going to be for a strong thunderstorm, as we've been watching, impacting Central Lake and northwestern Orange counties until 10:30. Winds of up to 40 miles an hour. Again, gusts have the opportunity to knock down tree limbs, which, just depending on your area, could cause some power issues. And also, of course, any unsecured items like trash bins could be rolled around with a 40-mile-an-hour wind. So again, for the next 30 minutes, we have this new special weather statement. I guess it didn't get into Volusia County. Looks like it did. They don't include Volusia here, do they? No. Okay. Anyway, so there you go. Still have our special weather statement, again, for the Bellevue area. And again, I love this because I don't really have to even mention it. You can clearly see when that special weather statement for Southern Marion County is going to expire. And it's simply because now we've pushed the strongest weather out of Marion County. Still going to be raining in places like Bellevue and Silver Springs and Ocala, but the worst weather has moved off towards your east. But again, if you live in the Orlando metro area, and this really goes from De Leon Springs, DeLand, down towards Deltona and Sanford and Altamont Springs and Maitland and Winter Park and Orlando and Ocoee and Winter Garden, all of these areas here, Apopka obviously included in that as well. We've got a strong storm that's going to be working its way through our area here over the next hour or so. Again, at this point in time, not severe, but there's a couple of segments to keep a closer eye on. And again, this one towards Umatilla. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at the potential hail out of that. Well, I'm going to look at winds first. Let's look at winds because they're still prompting some 40-mile-an-hour winds. So let's see what we got here. Within this segment that they were talking about, we'll see what we got. There's a nice little wind segment right there between Eustis and Massville Park of about 40 miles an hour, okay? So that kind of wind could be trying to get closer to Tavares and Oakland Park and Mount Dora. There you go right there. Yahala and Astatula there in the northern sides of Lake County. And again, all of this is marching to the east at around 25 miles an hour. Might be going even a little bit faster than that, but that's what the special weather statement is saying from the National Weather Service. There is Montverde, there is Oakland. Again, just good gusty winds, generally not going to be severe as far as causing any problems there, but the lightning I think is picking up within some of this segment as well. Stronger winds out towards Webster. Again, we're getting a little bit farther away from the radar site there, Lake Buena Vista, about 24-mile-an-hour winds. Anywhere we see the brighter greens, guys, that's winds coming, of course, from west to east. They're getting closer to the site there in the Melbourne area. And if they get a little bit closer to Orlando, I can always access the terminal Doppler here out of the MCO airport, and we can take a look at the winds there. But wanted to look at the winds. Let's take a look at the potential hail here as well and see if we've got any pinging on. Very little, but again, in the areas that I've been mentioning, it's not much. You can see that right there, just a couple of little segments. So more than likely there's no hail, more than likely. But if there is, I think it's pea size. It's nothing to be concerned about here. And again, you know, we're pinging just a little bit from time to time. That could be just a little bit more solid hail core, and a little bit stronger here. And I've mentioned this area before, that Dade City area southeast, east of Zephyr Hills. They're right across 98. A lot of lightning is with this as well, okay? So when I see the radar indicating some potential hail in this area and then a lot of lightning, that is a very intense part, that core of the storm there. And we do see sometimes that hail really begin to increase in potential near these areas where we have lightning. Also, and not today, but just, you know, now analyzing things, that would also be where I'd be looking for rotation and thunderstorms for tornado potential. Again, not today, but those are the things that I analyze here as we go through. So back over to our reflectivity. So that's a nasty core there. And again, I'll be watching that one. It will be moving through the northern sides of Polk County, maybe clipping Polk City, but right now, hopefully staying in some relatively rural areas. But again, if you're just tuning in, more than likely you're tuning in because it's a little bit noisier in your area here. As these storms continue to move on shore, they have been producing some winds of over 40 miles an hour from time to time. We did have some severe thunderstorm warnings out west. Now it's mainly just about getting some rowdier storms across our area the remainder of the morning hours. Again, nothing is severe at this point in time, but we do have a special weather statement for portions of Lake and the northwest sides of Orange County until 10:30 for winds of up to 40 miles an hour, potentially even some pea-sized hail, but we're going to get covered up here. It's raining very heavily through almost all of Lake County. So the Turnpike at 19 and 27 and 441. Not a lot of fun there. Obviously 50, Colonial, Claremont area, and then back into the western sides of Orange County, Winter Garden, Ocoee, back down towards Lake Buena Vista. And again, if you know anyone here who works at the attractions, going to the attractions, heavier rain lining up the 429 there towards Western Way, okay, World Drive as well, and then marching its way off towards the east. As a matter of fact, our computer here has picked up a little bit in the way of a potential small hail core. I don't expect there to be much, but again, got to watch out for that. And again, Lake Buena Vista is one of the areas that could be impacted by that potentially in about 30 minutes. I still think, though, that it's going to be a little bit quicker than that. I got to be honest. I need to look at some of the settings that I have for these times of arrival. I believe that Lake Buena Vista, even with this part of the cell, is going to be impacted a little bit quicker. So you can see that there's a little bit of a discrepancy that I'll have to look at here. That says 30, but when I can track it from right here, it's more like 20. So about 20 minutes away for Lake Buena Vista, at least some heavier rain, but we are picking up more lightning within this. And again, you know, just in an area where we know people are going to be outdoors. And by the way, some of that heavier part could try and get close to the southwest sides of Orange County. How we doing, friends? Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. While you're here, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, and if for some reason you're not a subscriber to Central Florida Weather Live and you're tuning in early on this Friday morning, do me a big favor and subscribe. If you'd like to find more ways you can support the channel, you can find that in the description below here at the live stream. And thank you so much for those of you who have supported the channel so far. It really means a lot. I appreciate it here. On this Friday morning, again, the reason why I came on to begin with, we had some severe storms on the western side of our area, including Levy and Citrus and Pasco and Hernando counties. Those storms are not as intense right now, but they have become more widespread, and they're very noisy storms that'll be working through the heart of Central Florida over the next hour or two. They do extend as far southwest as Tampa, but for the most part, they've avoided any really nasty weather. Some of the nastiest stuff is on the tail end, on the south side of this. So, you know, far eastern sides of Pasco County, kind of the northeast corner of Hillsborough, but especially northern sides of Polk, far southern sides of Sumter counties, Lake counties as well, and then trying to now get into the southwest side of Orange County. So Lake Buena Vista, Windermere, and Oak Ridge areas, again, continuing to see heavier rain move into your spot. Very, very concentrated rain. Again, it is hardly a spot in Lake County where we're not seeing some heavier activity. Still the opportunity for some very heavy rain and lightning for Eustis and Umatilla, and maybe even the potential for some small hail. You can see again what that system is doing if it holds together some of the areas that could be impacted by that more significant part of the cell. There's not really any one area that I'm monitoring right now up and down this line, but there are a couple of spots that are peeing a little bit higher in rain intensity, lightning intensity, and potentially some very small hail. But again, we have no severe thunderstorm warnings. These are all going to be special weather statements here for the next 25 minutes. Here's what I'm going to do, friends. I'm going to take off our radar real quick and bring on our composite. And I am going to take about a 1-minute break, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop this up for you guys so you get an idea of, again, why I'm on. So you can see the radar here will pick up in just 1 second. It takes 1 or 2 loops for it to do so. But you can see why I came on this morning. Hopefully it does. It's spinning, so it should. Look at all that lightning. My goodness gracious. Let's see here. Come on. There's a lot of data. When you're talking about 6 hours of looping this much information, it may not want to cooperate. And I got to tell you something, I don't blame it. There we go. All right. So take a look at that. This is why I've jumped on. That's some really nasty storms that came through there. Again, these were the storms that were out of Houston that brought all of that nasty weather to Houston yesterday. I mean, it's bad. Houston got hit hard. A lot of wind, a lot of rain. That's what's going on right now. And you can see those storms driving through. All right, let me drop this down to about an hour loop. I'm going to be back in just 1 minute. You can take a loop at the live radar as it's looping for you here, all the live information. And again, friends, I'll see you back in just 1 minute. All right, friends, I'm back. 10:13 on this Friday morning. Thanks for sticking with me. Hope things are going well for you here. Again, on live, Central Florida Weather Live, because we had some severe storms that rolled through our western zones earlier this morning. Those storms have now worked their way off towards the east through portions of Marion, especially Lake and Orange counties, northern sides of Polk counties here, coming out of places like Pasco and Hernando and Citrus counties. And this is all moving off towards the east at around 30 miles an hour. Now, at this point in time, there's no severe thunderstorm warnings. I don't expect there to be severe thunderstorm warnings. More than likely, we're starting to see these storms lose just a little bit of punch. That being said, look, they're still rowdy storms. They're still extremely noisy. They're going to have a lot of lightning. They're going to have a lot of very heavy rain and the potential, at least, for some isolated areas of very small sized hail. So again, still want to stay with you here for at least a little bit longer just to kind of track these storms as they get closer to Orange County in the Metro Orlando area. Lydia just said that it's starting to downpour in Mineola. And I can understand why, Lydia. Again, very heavy rain up towards the Eustis, Umatilla areas, towards Tavares, and then back down through the rest of Lake County as well. Again, just very heavy rain across the region. There is Groveland, there is Claremont right there, there is the Oakland area, and again, all extremely heavy rain. Astatula, Yahala, there's Mascot, Center Hill. So a lot of Lake County is just really covered up in some of that heavier stuff right now as it traverses its way off towards the east. Again, we do have a special weather statement for our area in yellow, and that does go for the next 15 minutes here. The next 15 minutes. Let me get off of this radar and get back onto the one here out of Melbourne, and you can see that. And again, now the times will click back on, so another 14 minutes there. And we're still pinging this cell for at least it being on the stronger side, on the far northeast sides of Lake County. So what I would say is if you live in DeBary, about 20 minutes, Deltona 24, maybe Sanford 23. If nothing else, there is some heavier rain coming in. I have not seen anything that there's actually been even some pea-sized hail out of this. It's a possibility. It's not going to be any hail that's going to cause any problems, but you might hear a couple of clanks on the patio cage. If this one holds together. And I think within some of these cores, there could be a little bit of that pea-sized hail. The weather is getting worse. And let me get rid of that, by the way. The weather is getting worse in downtown Orlando right now. So downtown, out west, the 408 towards Pine Hills and Orla Vista. Then south, places like Holden Heights and Edgewood. Just getting wetter down there. Pine Castle, Sky Hill, Oak Ridge areas. So the southern sides of downtown there. And then certainly down across I-4. I-4 Turnpike interchange, very heavy rain. Hopefully everyone's cooperating, slowing down, going along with that, because the heavy rain now extends through most of the I-4 corridor in Orange County. And now we have that beefy cell right over Lake Buena Vista. A couple of lightning strikes here and there with it as well, but that is some really solid rain over the tourist district of the Metro Orlando area. So the Lake Buena Vista area, I drive. Hopefully everyone is sheltering right now. You don't want to be outside in that heavy rain, but still lightning is going to be a concern. Still picking up a 10% chance of hail. So more than likely what we're seeing here is just some extremely heavy downpours occurring over the Lake Buena Vista area right now, 535, just east of the 429, through the Western Way area there as well. Again, as the 417 comes up and it hooks up with the with I-4 as well. And then of course, 192 there in the northern sides of Osceola County. And some of that heavier activity is back off to the south and to the west. So, here's the deal. This is going to be trying to get into either portions of northern Osceola or the southern sides of Lake County. And that little cell right there does have more lightning with it. It's in a very rural area right now, but that's what I'm going to be watching for us here as it drives deeper into the I-4 corridor. So again, if you're just tuning in, we don't have any severe weather, but these are some noisy storms. And if you're a little surprised by this, it's because this was the same complex of storms that developed in the Houston, Texas area yesterday and really, really hammered the Houston metro area. If you just find any video or pictures or a news article out of that, you'll know what I'm talking about. I mean, you're destructive winds and widespread flooding and a lot of other problems there for the Houston area. This complex of storms held together. It rolled across the north central Gulf of Mexico overnight and then has moved inland through our peninsula and central Florida as we've gone through the morning hours of this Friday. So still the special weather statement for the next 11 minutes. Let's take a look at the winds out of this as well, because again, that's the criteria that the Weather Service is actually issuing these special weather statements for winds of up to 40 miles an hour. Now, again, we're fairly high from the Melbourne radar here in Yahala, so I don't expect there to actually be 50-mile-an-hour winds at ground level, but it does show you that there are some pockets of very heavy winds here for Umatilla and Eustis. There's Montverde, there's Claremont, there's Mascot as well towards Oakland. And again, there's Apopka. The winds are beginning to pick up there. The winds are beginning to pick up now in the metro. Nothing extremely strong. Just kind of go down this list. Looks like the 429 corridor there towards Ocoee and Winter Garden. We could see upwards of 30-mile-an-hour winds from time to time. Not going to be extremely widespread with that. And again, this is generally not damaging winds, but it could knock down a tree limb. It could take a trash bin that's empty and knock it around as well. But you also notice again that it's gusty winds here through the attractions, and then look just south and west. It's even stronger. Whatever's going on here in northern Polk County is certainly more intense. Higher winds and a lot more lightning. Lot more lightning. So we want to track that and see how that is going to be headed here. Let me get back over to reflectivity. That would be my biggest area of concern. You can just see how much lightning there is. And by concern, I mean just we want to keep folks aware of all of that lightning that's coming in. I want to actually here loop that up real quickly. I just want to get an idea of where it's moving. It does appear to generally be moving in a basically due east fashion. It's a little swing. If you look at the last image, a little swing north, just a little turn up, but generally moving off towards the east. So more than likely, the bulk of the worst weather in northern Polk County is going to go into northern Osceola County. So Campbell and Kissimmee, and obviously places like Four Corners and Intercession City and Champions Gate as well. All of those areas will more than likely be a little bit more impacted there. Chapstick break. You guys will find that as I go live for hours on end, sometimes I'll have these little quirks. Chapstick break, water break. Sometimes I get dry mouth from time to time. I actually have some of that gum that keeps moisture in your mouth, and when I would be doing other coverage in my previous life, I'd chomp on some of that in between, but since it's just me, I'm not going to be doing that on this live stream here. But you can again see what's happening with these storms. It's a nasty storm over Lake Buena Vista, and this will be headed, by the way, over OIA, so we might even get some kind of airport advisory as well. I'm going to go back over here real quick. So again, I have just off screen, I have a tablet that I have all of everything going on here. I can obviously, catch up with the chat if you guys have any questions. And again, wanting to make this an interactive channel, it's one reason why I wanted to do it. I know we're just getting started here at Central Florida Weather Live, but as more and more folks start finding us, as we get more viewer count up, I'd love for you guys to interact with each other, interact with me. You got a question about what's happening here in Central Florida, I'm happy to answer that for you. I mean, obviously, some ways, you know, if the chat's not very active, hopefully it means I'm answering all of your questions. But while you're there, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, I appreciate it. And again, it allows the channel to become more visible across YouTube. The more interaction, the more viewers we get, the more watch hours we get. It all goes together. It's all computer algorithms these days, just like we have the computer algorithms here on my weather system. We do have computer algorithms on YouTube, which will allow us to be more visible to people. Well, live here on Central Florida Weather Live, you have a brand new special weather statement. That's why it's flashing in yellow. So when we get a new warning, when we get a new special weather statement, again, it's very clear to see, and this encompasses all of Metro Orlando. It's for this entire complex that's going to be coming in. So we now have that. So let's get the specifics, details on that. All right, here we go. This is going to be for Seminole, southeastern Lake, Orange, and northwestern Osceola counties through 11 a.m. Doppler radar tracking a strong storm and really a line that goes from Wekiva Springs State Park to near Lake Apopka, Lake Louisa, moving southeast at 50 miles an hour. Wow. Wind gusts of up to 40, which is surprising because sometimes when the storms are going 50 miles an hour, you can get 50-mile-an-hour winds. But hazards are winds of up to 40. And again, same situation. We're going to get some winds that can knock down some tree limbs. We're going to get some winds that can knock down some unsecured objects. It's also going to be very wet, and there's going to be a lot of lightning associated with this as well. So we've got kind of a rougher 40 to 45 minutes here through Metro Orlando to watch these storms moving in. And you can see the movement here, and you can see how widespread this activity is. This is a very, very large special weather statement. It encompasses a big chunk of the Metro Orlando area. Again, to our south, we're looking better. To our north, we're looking better. There is going to be some lighter rain moving through Marion County and up through the northern sides of Volusia and into Flagler counties. I'm not nearly as concerned with you guys right now. I'll be monitoring that situation. Again, when I zoom out, you see that there's no special weather statements, there's no watches, there's no warnings. It's the southern complex of this, and it does extend all the way to South Georgia, but we just happen to be on the southern side of this. There's a little bit more wind energy holding together. It's not as intense as what it was as it moved on shore a couple of hours ago, but it is strong enough still to produce these special weather statements, which again are in effect until 11 o'clock. And that's why I'm on right now, Central Florida Weather Live, again, covering these storms whenever they move across our area. If there's a situation that I think I need to be on, I will. And again, even though these storms are not severe, okay, one of the reasons why I wanted to come on is because these storms are a little bit of a surprise. These storms really weren't in the forecast. They came out of, again, the north central Gulf of Mexico, out of Houston, and the fact that they held together and have worked their way all the way into Central Florida this morning just shows you how strong and intense that those storms were in East Texas yesterday. So pretty massive system. Let's go to the live look here right now. And again, this is out of the Melbourne radar site. So all of the Metro Orlando area, it's going to get wet, it's going to get nasty, it's going to get stormy. If you live in the area, let your friends know about us. I'd appreciate that. Let them know that we're live here on Central Florida Weather Live, and we're tracking their storms for them early on this Friday morning. Well, now it's 10:25. Feels earlier though. Conway, Edgewood, Pine Castle, very heavy rain. And again, let's see here. You know, whenever I do that, we lose the lightning count. All right, give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna do just a real quick reset. I want to make sure that lightning count comes on as well, because that's one way I can track the most intense part of those cells, is to make sure I have that lightning data on. You can see the live lightning strikes, but what happens every so often is I lose that lightning count data up top, and I like to see that. So now it's back on. Again, it takes a very brief time for me to reset that, so I appreciate your understanding. Going to get back into our storm cell tracking mode, which allows me to do that, and then we'll get right back into what's happening right now. So again, there's your special weather statement for the next 33 minutes. Again, downtown Orlando and Conway and Oak Ridge and Holden Heights, really nasty there. Basically right down Cimarron and OBT and JYP. I mean, it's just nasty. It's bad towards Lake Buena Vista. Some of the heavier activity is now beginning to sneak into the northwest sides of Osceola County. So as I mentioned, Champions Gate, 192 and Intercession City, places like that. There's Kissimmee, it's starting to rain a little bit heavier there. Now I-4 is getting a little bit worse, right? I-4 was okay for a while, but now into Polk County. And again, really high concentration of lightning just north of I-4 in Polk County. You can see some of that now right along 27. So it's beginning to get closer to places like Champions Gate, and then of course where the 429 and I-4 and the 417 all kind of merge together in that area, if you know where I'm talking about here. Far northern sides of Osceola, far southwest sides of Orange County. We could follow this first batch that goes all the way up now again towards Conway and Azalea Park and the Winter Park area. Again, Not seeing anything that the radar is saying, hey, look, Rusty, you got to really look at this. But it is widespread, fairly heavy, intense rain. It's beginning to rain heavier now in places like Lockhart and Maitland and Altamont Springs and Castleberry. And if you are just tuning in, friends, again, this is going to be a special weather statement that is in effect until 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock straight up. So based on, again, that movement from the National Weather Service, we can take a look at where that line started and kind of where it's moving. And these are some of the times of arrival that are expected out of it. And again, this is where the most intense part of that line, it's kind of a squall line, if you will, picking up from that, will be moving through. So Apopka, Wekiva Springs in a couple of minutes. Same thing for Ocoee, Altamont Springs in 5, Pine Hills in about 6, and you can see those are counting down live for you as well. Winter Park 9, downtown Orlando, even though they're getting some rain right now, another batch coming through at about 10 minutes, Oak Ridge 12, Kissimmee 21. And again, it's from this segment here. This is already into play, but again, the computer picking up on, and you can kind of see it's raggedy, but that's the line right there, moving off basically towards the east or southeast. And again, the Weather Service has it southeast at 50 miles an hour. So if a storm segment is moving 50 miles an hour, it's going to be producing some winds, at least from time to time, in gusts close to that. So we'll go over to our velocity product. And again, you have a specific question about the forecast, please drop it in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching here on Central Florida Weather Live, covering the storms moving through Metro Orlando and other areas of Central Florida live for you on this Friday morning. It is 10:29. My name just so happens to be Rusty McCranie. We all need a name. That one happens to be mine. You can see the winds again through the area, and this is one of the spots I'm going to want to watch. Moving right close to Champions Gate right now, 27,192. We have a lot of lightning, and we have some winds of at least 40 miles an hour. So that's a more intense part of this line segment. Same thing across 33 into Polk City. Again, it's a relatively rural area there north of Polk City. I drive 33 from time to time because I-4 is so snarled. I have to take 33, so I do actually know this area. And yeah, it is pretty rural, but again, there are some folks who live north of Polk City on 33, and they're seeing a very intense part of that cell. And again, looking at all of this wind energy here, Montverde, pretty solid winds there, maybe up to 40 miles an hour, in all of the Metro Orlando area here. And as a matter of fact, again, one thing that I could do is I can put on wind gusts live. And so if there are wind gusts, they're going to pop up. Now, if there hasn't been a wind gust reported in the last hour, you're not going to see a number. I'll zoom out real quick. And again, all of our winds over the last hour were actually back down into Tampa. So when we get the new reports coming in closer to Metro Orlando, my thought would be we're going to have more winds than that. But you can see even Leesburg last hour did have a 30-mile-an-hour wind gust. Now, is there a 40 being reported right now? It doesn't appear to be. And that looks to be about the maximum wind that we hopefully to see out of this. And again, 40-mile-an-hour winds could knock down a couple of tree branches, could take a empty trash bin and send it going for a little bit, but it's not going to cause any widespread wind issues. Might knock down a couple of palm fronds if they've been already loose. But again, you don't want to be caught out in this as well. That's why we have this special weather statement. Again, below severe thunderstorm criteria for winds and hail, but still relatively strong. And again, some of these winds are still peaking up towards Winter Springs, Wekiva Springs, Altamont Springs, potentially up to 30-mile-an-hour winds, Maitland and Winter Park. Again, just kind of analyzing this in real time with you guys. There's Eatonville, our friends in Fairview Shores, Goldenrod, all within this wind energy segment. There's Azalea Park, Conway. So what I would say for Metro Orlando is 20 to 30-mile-an-hour winds for the most part. Rowdier storms, not severe. From time to time, we're going to get a couple of areas with more wind energy. Southwest Orange County right now, Windermere South, Lake Buena Vista, 429 to the 535. Stronger winds there. Same thing for Kissimmee, Campbell, Loughman area there towards Champions Gate. Again, big cluster of lightning moving right through that area now. If you happen to live in that area, let me know what you're seeing. I imagine, A, you're not seeing a lot. I imagine you're hearing a lot, though, as well. Again, new lightning strikes coming up with that. You can see that right there. There's your special weather statement that's currently in effect. There's our lightning counter that came back on, thank God, because I was concerned that it was not going to come back on. And there's your nasty storm over OIA as well, by the way, guys. Nasty storm over OIA. It's going to probably slow things down for a time for the airport. It's never great because it doesn't matter what time of the day or what time, what day of the week. OIA is always miserably busy. And when you factor in weather, it's going to cause a problem there. But you can just see how widespread this is, guys. Again, very, very widespread, relatively intense storms. Nothing severe, but it's noisy out there, and it will just continue to be wet. Now, one of the questions again is, does this hold together as it moves east towards I-95? Right now, it's doing so. Weather Service wouldn't have issued a special weather statement if they didn't think that this core of storms would at least have some 40-mile-an-hour winds over at least the next half hour. So, we'll see how this plays out as kind of the whole segment moves east, but some of the more intense portions kind of drop south and east. It's kind of a general east to southeast pattern. You do get some of the more intense cells trying to move more southeast, but the entire line in general is tracking on a west to east fashion there. And again, let's go out to the Jacksonville radar site real quick for our northern friends. Always keeping an eye on everyone. And I like to, from time to time, just get a good analysis as well here. Let's see. Make sure I'm on the right segment here. Okay. Nope. Give me just one second here, guys. Where are you? Jacksonville radar. See if I do this real quick. Well, we got the Melbourne radar. That's cooperating. So basically what I'm trying to tell the computer is, hey, let me access the other radar sites. There we go. Okay. Should be able to access the other radar sites now. So let's get back up to Jacksonville. Did you disappear on me? We'll figure it out. Yeah, that did disappear. No, there's the Tampa site. All right. Pretty sure I know where the Jacksonville radar is. There it is. All right. Just took a second to see it. Basically, what I wanted to do here is I wanted to look at these storms from the north side, make sure I wasn't missing anything for our northern areas. And again, it's all much more congested and much more just steady rain for places like DeLand and DeLeon Springs and Pearson and Crescent City and Palatka. So the good news is for Flagler and at least a chunk of portions of Volusia County, it's just going to be some lighter showers for you guys. But I just wanted to make sure that just because I was looking at this from the south, that I wasn't missing anything gnarly up here. But generally what's been happening is the northern segment of this has been weakening, and the southern segment, where we have a little bit more wind energy down here, is taking over. Okay, so now I know that. Don't have to look at it again. I feel pretty confident that that's going to be the situation for the remainder of this event. So we'll get back over to what's happening right now out of the Melbourne radar site. And again, if you're just tuning in, and some of you might be because it's getting pretty noisy through Metro Orlando, and I'm talking about anywhere from Sanford all the way down towards Lake Buena Vista, we have a special weather statement in effect till the top of the hour. The main threat is going to be winds of 40 miles an hour. Now look, I don't expect there to be any severe weather with this, meaning that we're not going to have damaging winds, we're not going to have destructive hail. This is just more about coming on and talking about what's going to be some rowdy storms across your area, very noisy storms, and with this kind of rainfall could still produce some ponding and some flooding of some minor low-lying areas. So just keep that in mind as well. These are moving relatively quickly, so at least the flooding threat really isn't going to be very prominent, but getting some ponding on the roadways, especially across I-4 and the 408 and the 417 and the 429, a lot of the major thoroughfares across the metro is a possibility. And you know how folks sometimes just don't slow down when we're in these conditions. So that can be one of the issues as well. The main segment is moving off towards the east, and I believe the Weather Service had it all the way at 50 miles an hour. Yeah, they have it moving southeast at 50. So I do have an updated timeline here from some of these areas, and you can see again, they're tracking off towards the south and east. So for Winter Park, the heaviest part of this cell is about ready to enter your area. We're going to get another big concentration of heavy rain in downtown Orlando as we speak. Oak Ridge in 2 minutes, Kissimmee in 12. This is from this segment moving south and east. There's an additional line down here that's also going to be moving in. We are going to get kind of enclosed from two different angles, if you will. But again, based off of what the weather computer sees as far as this segment, you can see that track, again, following the Weather Service southeast at around 50 miles an hour. So pretty nasty weather there. But again, high concentration of lightning on the doorstep of Lake Buena Vista. You can see that. And again, within this fairly narrow geographic area that I've zoomed into, in just the last 15 minutes, we've had 56 lightning strikes. A lot of that concentrated right there, right across the 27. There's 192. There's I-4. Of course, we're getting close to places like Champions Gate, as I mentioned. The weather going downhill in places like Campbell and Kissimmee. Very wet and stormy right now through the southern sides of the metro towards OIA and Lake Nona and Medical City. It's going to be a rough drive across the 417 as you swing around south of the airport. I-4 is covered up. We're beginning to hopefully see a little bit lighter rain towards the 429, but Apopka still has some heavy rain, all that red in place right now. So really what's happened is the storms have expanded in geographic size while the intensity has held steady, but not that strong. Again, you know, what I would look for is maybe some of this leading edge here, DeLand on over towards Deltona. That's the 415 Osteen. Right up here, could see some heavier rain and lightning out of that. Let's take a look at if the system's bringing us any hail right now. So I'm gonna switch over to that. I wouldn't expect to see much, if any, but let's see if it does pop on any here. Again, as I zoom into these areas, if you see this little pink here, that would be like PP, you know, pea-size hail right across 27 at the most. But sometimes the heavy rain can get kind of congested in the radar, if you will, and it will produce the potential for some smaller hail when really all it is just some extremely heavy rain. Just moving up the line segment here, wanted to make sure I don't see anything else. We did have a little bit more of an intense signature for at least some small hail towards Umatilla and Eustis. Don't see that anymore. That's good news. And again, back down towards I-4 a spot. So again, I'm not concerned about the hail. Don't think that's going to be the issue here. Let's see, what did that do? Interesting. All right. Let me see here. There we go. I had chosen to go back to velocity, but then it showed us whatever that was, which was not reflectivity. So again, guys, if you're just tuning in, thank you so much for joining me here at Central Florida Weather Live. I'm on live on this Friday morning. It is 10:41. A couple of things. First of all, you can see that on the bottom of your screen on that blue bar, we have live current conditions across all of Central Florida updating for you here. So again, if you want to check in on what's going on in your area just for a quick snippet, you can see that. Obviously, if you want to follow the simple instructions of the red bar, I would thoroughly appreciate that by liking this live stream. Just click that thumbs up button for me. And again, subscribing to Central Florida Weather Live if you're not a subscriber, and if you're so inclined and you'd like to support the channel in other ways as we get cranked up here on Central Florida Weather Live, you can see how you can do that in the descriptions below. But thank you so much for everyone who's tuning in. I appreciate that. Thank you for all the new subscribers. That continues to be a nice work in progress here as we're just getting started here at Central Florida Live. We've just started since May 1st, but happy to bring you this live coverage. And again, part of the reason why I wanted to do this channel was because I can come on at any point in time. It doesn't matter what time of the day. When these storms move in, we can track them for you live here on our YouTube channel. And again, we can stay on as long as we need to, and we can cover any geographic area that we want to as well. There's no boundaries here. And again, really happy. And I think that more and more, once you find us and you see what we do here, you'll see the benefit associated with that. And again, also, you can just carry us with us. We all have our mobile phones, right? Well, that allows you to follow us here at Central Florida Weather Live. You have the YouTube app. And I would suggest this for anyone, to have the notifications on, because that way you know when I'm live. Again, this is a live only channel. There's no real forecasting. You know, I'll show you some of the short-term models as far as how these storms are going to play out, but we're not talking about 5-day forecasts in your area. Obviously, you can get that in so many other different areas. You know, what we want to do here is provide a service that you're not going to get anywhere else, and that's live coverage of storms at any time of the day here as they move across Central Florida. And again, with some of the technology that we have, which in the 25 years I've been a meteorologist, this is by far the best analysis tool that I've ever used. Really happy to share that with you guys. This in real time does so many great things. And also it makes it very easy for you, the viewer, to understand. I don't have to reiterate everything. You guys can see on screen very clearly, like this yellow box is a special weather statement and it expires in 16 minutes. So I don't have to keep repeating when it expires. It's right there on your screen. It counts down in real time. It's going to tell you what the reason this special weather statement was issued for. It was issued for winds of up to 40 miles an hour. So again, I don't have to just keep going over that. We can talk about other things, but you get that idea. So let's get into it again here, friends. If you're just tuning in, just some intense heavy rain and lightning moving across Metro Orlando as we speak. And it really goes anywhere as far north as Lake Helen and Orange City and Deltona and DeBerry, back down towards Sanford and Lake Mary. Then we get into our special weather statement for winds of 40 miles an hour in places like Apopka and Winter Springs. Oviedo, it's starting to get a little bit wetter there as well. No lightning out of any of the activity in this segment so far. That's good news, but there's been plenty of rumbles of thunder here and there. 417 across Lake Jessup into the UCF area, including our friends in Goldenrod and Union Park. So now it's going to get wetter towards UCF, back down towards Dean Road. And then on over west towards Union Park, Azalea Park, Baldwin Park, Winter Park, all the parks, Ida Park. It's going to be wet in Metro Orlando right now. Fairview Shores, there's Lee Road back down towards the Science Center. And again, just a wet morning here across Central Florida. Not expecting severe weather, but from time to time, these storms will be a little bit more intense. We'll pick up some lightning as you're seeing there right now. So the beach line is very wet across Lee Vista and then back down towards OIA. Let's see if OIA issued a airport statement here. Doesn't look like it, but again, heavy rain there. I think it probably snarled things just a little bit, which is never any good news, because when you have storms that delay planes early in the day, it's hard for them to play catch up the rest of the day. You'd want these storms to come in much later. My friends in Osceola County, yeah, St. Cloud up to 192 towards Kissimmee, fairly heavy rain there. Again, we had a decent segment come through Lake Buena Vista. There is some good lightning right now across the 417. This is still the area that has kind of the most concentrated rain, or excuse me, lightning. You notice that in this small geographic area, we've still had 25 lightning strikes in the last 15 minutes or so. So again, that's near Champions Gate and the Four Corners area there. The rain intensity might be coming down a bit, but still, there's Loftman and Campbell. We have some lightning, and that will be moving into Kissimmee as well. And then you can see some of those heavier strikes there and some heavier rain towards Davenport, Haines City, through Polk County. So again, this leading edge is now beginning to move out of Metro or out of the downtown Orlando area and then track off towards the east. So I'm going to stay with you to at least 11. I want to see how this plays out here. And again, some of this is trying to even get back down 192 Harmony and Holopaw there in Osceola County. So it's trying to hold together as it gets into Brevard County as well. It's going to be a wet drive across the beach line. You see the showers developing there. There's Bithlo towards Chuliota getting wet. Oviedo, as I've already mentioned, Winter Springs. So just a good pocket of heavy rain and storms. Again, nothing severe. That's great news, but pretty active weather. I'm going to let that loop up here, and again, you can kind of just see the general movement. Looks like this segment might try and hold together. So I would still expect some decent downpours for Davenport and Haines City and Kissimmee. And there's St. Cloud. And again, towards Harmony and Holopaw there on 192. Altamont Springs, Oviedo. Good solid rain, guys. Good solid rain. Now, again, this is it. This is all we're going to see for the remainder of the day, okay? So in our western zones, could be a few light showers left over for Levy and Citrus counties, but certainly the heaviest activity has moved out of your way. Ocala has some lighter rain right now, but back down towards especially Pasco County and Hernando County, and then into Hillsborough and Pinellas and Manatee counties. Weather's basically clear for you guys for the remainder of the day. Might take a while to even get a little bit of clearing. But again, you can see, by the way, too, do you see this white line? This is the computer following the leading edge of the worst weather within this special weather statement. So it updates in real time. So we can follow that line as it pushes off towards the south and to the east. And it's a great product to have because I can do manual tracking, and I will do manual tracking, but with this system being, you know, so good, I can obviously just follow that line and say, okay, well, this is where we are right now, what's going on. So just to give you guys an idea of basically what that was showing you. Gonna zoom out, gonna zoom back in. And again, that is moving off towards the southeast at around 50 miles an hour. So for the western sides of Orange County, still some lighter rain at Apopka, Ocoee, Windermere, but the worst weather has passed you by. Obviously, we're looking at the reds and the yellows here, and you can see those intense storms. Let me get back over here to the chat. Hi, Sarah. How you doing? Well, I appreciate you, Sarah. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I appreciate everyone following along as well. Again, if you're just tuning in, and I imagine a lot of you will be tuning in from the Metro Orlando area or areas off to the east because you're interested in what's happening now. Special weather statement to the top of the hour. It's not a severe storm, but it is still a pretty rowdy storm. There's got a fair amount of lightning with it and some heavier downpours. And again, earlier this morning, these storms were severe along the West Coast, and I was watching them come in. And maybe you're just tuning in right now. These storms were somewhat unexpected because this is a chunk of the energy in the complex of storms that brought all of the destructive weather to the Houston, Texas area last night. Yes, you heard me correctly. This chunk of storms stayed together, rolled across the north central Gulf of Mexico overnight, and then slammed into the Big Bend area and the Nature Coast a couple of hours ago. The wind energy was very significant still. And if you've seen some of the damage out of Houston from that winds, you know why I was concerned about this area. And so I wanted to jump on. Now, the good news is that it doesn't look like it caused a lot of damage along the West Coast, although right along the immediate coastline, there were some winds of around 60 miles an hour. These storms have slowly weakened a bit as they've moved inland. No longer severe weather criteria. Got to have winds of 60 miles an hour, but still strong enough to potentially produce 40-mile-an-hour winds from time to time. It's not going to be very concentrated. We might have some gusts in that variety. That's going to maybe knock down a couple of tree limbs. And again, any unsecured objects could get blown around. I've got a little lattice structure at my house, and when those storms came through on Wednesday, it knocked it down. Those are the things that we're talking about here. You know, you got a gate that's not very well latched. It could be thrown open. We know how it goes here in Central Florida with this, but nothing widespread. The hail threat is minimal at best. Could potentially see some smaller pea-sized hail from time to time, but it's more about just the fact coming on, talking about storms that were not forecast, right? Probably didn't hear a lot about them. And then two, the fact that, they're still producing a lot of lightning and thunder, and a lot of folks tuning in probably because they're pretty noisy. Now, again, the winds, and let's talk about what's going to be happening here on the eastern side of the metro. The winds are picking up a bit. So you can see, and we're getting closer to the Melbourne radar site. So these are even lower level winds here, potentially up to 40 or so right along the beach line as it intersects 417, so Lee Vista and of course Lake Nona area here, 30 to potentially some 40-mile-an-hour winds. If you live in the southeast side of the Metro Orlando area, you know what I'm talking about. And again, this is a widespread wind field. There's not many areas that are more concentrated, but you can see that anywhere that I'm querying here, and I'm just kind of analyzing this in real time along with you guys, 30 to 40-mile-an-hour winds. It's noisy. Kissimmee, Campbell, St. Cloud, again, minimal issues with that, but you don't want to be unprepared to have these kind of winds come through. It's not fun to drive in. I can tell you that much right now. I would not want to be trying to drive Chuliota, Oviedo, Again, we're a little bit higher up now in the atmosphere, so I don't think we're seeing actual 45-mile-an-hour winds in the Oviedo area, but you get the idea that some of this wind activity can be on the stronger side. Looks like we had just another update from the radar. There's Sanford at 34, and by the way, again, I actually do have the wind gusts on. Let me just check that with the temperature. Yeah, okay. Wow, it's just 68 degrees right now up in Leesburg. Shows you behind the storms how cool it is. So the gusts are on. So here's the bottom line. If you don't see a number, we haven't had a wind gust reported within the last hour. Sometimes they'll put out a special statement, but you can see we had a 30-mile-an-hour wind gust out of Leesburg, and even Crystal River didn't have strong winds. So at this point in time, I think the ground truth wind hasn't been accompanying what the warnings or the special weather statements have shown. But again, we're looking at very specific locations, and this wind field is very wide. So I don't want to discount the opportunity of 30 to 40 mile an hour winds, especially on the leading edge of this, but I don't think it's going to be widespread. Downtown Orlando, again, not a lot of, 30 I think at most. The executive airport is right here. If there was a strong enough wind gust, they would have issued a special statement, a special observation, that is. And same thing for the OIA area as well. So again, if you live in any area that has had any stronger winds and you've noticed any tree limbs please let me know in the chat. That's obviously one of the reasons why we're doing this. We want all of that interactivity with all of our viewers as well. And again, just getting up to date real-time information from you guys is one of the things that I'm excited about. Again, I want this to be a very interactive channel, and hopefully that will continue to do so. I appreciate everyone who's jumped in the chat so far and said hi or let me know what's going on in your area. And hopefully, again, as we get more and more watchers to the channel, more folks find out about us, this will be a very interactive channel. That's really what I'm hoping for, and I think we'll get that as the numbers continue to come up. But I do appreciate those who have jumped in to let me know what's been happening in your area. And of course, while you're there, a big thank you to me would be just to hit that like button. And if you're not a subscriber to Central Florida Weather Live, do that as well. All right, friends, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to watch to see what happens with this special weather statement. It goes for the next 5 minutes. Let me just make sure that it is still in effect here. Real quick. It is. Again, this computer, by the way, is faster than any other data stream I have, including the internet and what the Weather Service posts on the internet. So I just wanted to double check that they didn't at least put out a statement that said, hey, by the way, we're doing this with the statement. We're not going to issue another one. Haven't seen that yet. So we're going to see how this plays out as it gets deeper into Seminole County and the far eastern sides of Orange and Osceola counties, and what the I-95 corridor might see. So I'll be back in just a second with that. And thank you again for continuing to watch. I'm going to put this into loop mode so you guys get an idea of where this has been tracking over the last hour. Again, that's the live radar out of Melbourne. Special weather statement still for Metro Orlando to the top of the hour. Friends, I'll be back in just a second. Okay, friends, back getting close to the top of the hour here. We're going to see what the Weather Service wants to do with this special weather statement. I mean, obviously, for a large area of what we had here, it is not going to be an issue anymore. And you can see it's flashing because it's within a minute of going away. And then we'll see if they reissue off towards the east. We had a 30-mile-an-hour wind gust, and again, this is why I had it on live. So we had a 30-mile-an-hour wind gust there at the Sanford Airport. Again, not even 40, so it wouldn't have even been part of the special weather statement there. It's right on the border. We had an 18 at OIA, so obviously I think that the winds have cooperated, or they behaved for the most part here. And again, this special weather statement about ready to go away here. And once it does so, we won't have any special weather statements or any severe thunderstorm warnings. And again, not expecting anything to be severe as it moves off towards the East Coast. But it is going to get a little bit rowdier here as we go through the 11 o'clock hour towards noon for portions of Volusia County and especially Brevard County. And that still includes the eastern sides of Orange County, and it still includes the eastern sides of Seminole County as well. Osceola County obviously included within that as well. But again, this should be disappearing off our screens here pretty quickly. Yeah, it's basically done now. Okay. Oh, I know why it's showing up still. I'm looping it. I was like, when is that going to go away? It's because it's not live. Whenever I loop it, it's going to, in time, go back through the watches in the morning. So, yeah. That would make more sense. I was like, why is that thing not going away? All right, so at this point in time, we don't have any special weather statements. We don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings. I'm going to double check and just make sure that they haven't issued anything of a heads up. The bottom line is that these winds cooperated for the most part. And so even at 40 miles an hour, we really didn't see that. New Smyrna's picked up a 20-mile-an-hour wind. Now look, we're still going to have some rain from Palm Coast that could be heavy from time to time, in Beverly Beach and Flagler Beach. Solid downpours more than anything. There's De Leon Springs delaying 17-mile-an-hour wind. There was a 20 ahead of this here in the Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach area. We've had a 30 at Sanford. We've had a 30 at Sanford and a 30 at Leesburg earlier. Those were the heaviest winds that I've actually seen as being actually reported. I think there were certainly some 49-mile-an-hour winds in pockets. But now we're getting into where this activity should continue to weaken a little bit, and it's just going to be some heavier rain. So I do want to prepare our friends. You know, right now it's raining pretty heavily still through Chuleota and the UCF area and Bithlo. It'll be moving into Mims and Titusville and really through a lot of Brevard County. Brevard County, out of anyone else, is going to get the more widespread showers and storms, okay? Now, there's still a decent little cluster of lightning back down towards Lake Nona and the Narcoossee areas here as it moves off towards the east to Lake Mary Jane, places like that. And that lightning and that heavy rain does extend through portions of 192 and St. Cloud and the Kissimmee areas. But again, areas now west of I-4, we're beginning to see it wrap up. And this is it for today. All right. There's nothing else that's going to be coming for us on this Friday. It's much more widespread, but lighter as you go up to the north. So the one segment of this that came onshore this morning that's still held together and at least away has been moving through the heart of Central Florida, now on the eastern sides of Seminole Orange, and then back down to Osceola. It'll be moving into Brevard County. Again, I don't expect anything to get too rough. The energy with this continues to wane a little bit. Now, there are different criteria for special marine warnings, and if these cells can hold together, they might issue some special marine warnings. And it's always important for mariners because you want to get that information out to the boaters ahead of time, because they don't, you don't want this to be on top of them before they get that alert. They want to be able to seek shelter. Obviously, they're very exposed when it comes to storms and lightning, and being a boater myself for my entire life, I'm always very conscious of that situation. So there's different criteria there as far as special marine warnings go, but I don't expect there to be more than likely another special weather statement out of this. Certainly no severe thunderstorm warnings. There will still be from time to time clusters of lightning. You can see that across the beach line right now. Already a little bit of shower activity trying to develop towards Sharps, Mims and the Titusville area. And again, this will be moving into Brevard County. Right now, we're picking up a few light cells just to the west there of Palm Bay and the Melbourne area, far southern sides of Brevard County. We'll see if this activity can slip into your area. Haines City, decent little storm there just to the east of Davenport as well. Again, just a solid cell, a lot of lightning, but it should be in and out pretty quickly. Watch out for the ponding on the roadways. All right, friends, I tell you what, if you guys have any specific questions about what might be happening here over the next little bit, drop it in the comments section below. I think if nothing else, we're going to wrap up here in a couple of minutes. Again, you know, I don't want to be on forever when the storms are not going to be extremely intense, because I don't want folks coming on and saying that we're just talking about a couple of showers, right? You know, there has to be some sense of urgency with this, but I'm happy to cover these storms as they get into Brevard County if you have a specific question for us here. But again, I do want to let everyone know along the East Coast that there is going to be no severe weather for you. We're going to get some good downpours and some lightning, but I don't have any concerns about any issues with any stronger storms moving into your area. Again, still going to get a solid downpour here or there. And again, there's one little cell out of the Bithlo area that continues to move off towards the east. It doesn't look like it's going to be impacting too much of that area. Sharps would be included in that, maybe back towards the Cape. So if you know anyone who's at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex, again, that's one of the bigger outdoor areas of the Brevard County area. We've got the Brevard Zoo as well. And again, you know, Space Coast has a lot of different tourist areas, so we want to keep those people advised as well. But again, heavy rain. Even now, I've got, 10, 11 lightning strikes out of this. There is some lightning that's embedded within this. It's really more confined, though, into the southeast sides of Metro Orlando. It's this segment here that is still producing a few lightning strikes. But if I zoom in even a little bit closer, like this intense cell right here, there's not even any rain out of that across the beach line. Going to be heavy, snarled down, but that's going to be about it. So not really anticipating these storms to be much more intense as they work their way off towards the east. And again, other areas should remain quiet. With that in mind, take off the radar real fast. Let's take off our surface information as well. I'm going to bring on our model. And we'll talk about the weekend real quick. And again, this was a segment of storms out of the Houston, Texas area last night. It was really, really unbelievable to see these hold together, and they worked their way all the way in. So here you go on the high resolution rapid refresh model that updates every hour. Here's how it expects it to play out. So we're getting rid of this rain, and you can see your timeline. As we get into the evening, it tries to bring in potentially an isolated shower or storm. Shouldn't be too intense, but here's a couple of spots right around sunset tonight. Southern Brevard County, maybe the northern sides of the metro, and then into portions like Lake and Volusia counties as well. Again, just one model, but to show you that it's trying to redevelop maybe an isolated storm right around sunset for tonight. Then, for the most part, the remainder of the weekend, we're going to be dry. I'll watch out for an isolated storm in the afternoon. While I'm over here, as they say, take a look at another model. Let's see if that one brings on anything tonight. Yeah, it tries to pop up maybe a little something. Yeah, not the same time frame though, for sure. Or am I too far out? I think I'm too far out actually. Because today's the 17th. Yeah, but even then, nope. Let's see. One more model. Curious if any others besides her are picking up any activity after this. Let's go to there. Not really, huh? Oh, you know what? I'm too far. Here we go. Give me just 1 second here. Got to pause it and then restart the loop. There we go. So on the GFS, I mean, it's kind of now. No, not really. And then it does try and bring in another little bit on Sunday morning. I'll be monitoring that. We'll see how that plays out. May not be completely dry for the weekend, guys. Could be a couple of pop-ups here or there. What's interesting with this one, though, if I zoom out a little bit, is where that's actually coming from. It's going to try and bring another impulse of energy out of the northern Gulf of Mexico. All right. Let's go out even a little bit further in time. Analyzing it in real time with you guys. But hey, look, if nothing else, this might give you a heads up for the weekend, right? We can go out a little bit farther in time here and see what we got. Yeah, it tries to drift it in on Sunday. So I think there's an opportunity at least for something to talk about. It might not be something that requires me to come on Sunday, but I'll be watching it for you guys. You know that. A little bit more coming in right there. If I go back to the HER, I don't think I actually went out all 48 hours. So there's a couple different high resolution models as far as time goes. The general HER is only 12 hours, but there's a 48-hour portion of this as well we can look at. It's all high resolution, updates every hour. When we're talking about Central Florida Weather Live, I like to use this model because it is updating almost in real time. So you can see at 11 a.m. here, it's a little off right now because all of that activity is a little bit farther east. And you notice that it does wane it. It does reduce the intensity. And again, it tries to crop up a few isolated showers or a rumble of thunder in our area tonight. But most of the models discount that. And then let's see how it plays out here. It tries to bring on a few storms near Tampa tomorrow. And then as we get into Wednesday morning, it does kind of follow the GFS with maybe more energy there. Look at that system out of the Gulf. Boy, I hope it doesn't hit Houston again. That's a lot of impulses of energy coming out of there, guys. You can almost see that again. Look at that. Boy, it could try and do the same thing it did this morning. We got it right up through the Gulf Coast there. New Orleans, Biloxi, Pensacola, our Panhandle could get hammered once again with winds over the weekend. So I'll monitor the situation, guys. You know, if I need to come back on here, Central Florida Weather Live, I absolutely will. But could get one more impulse of energy that's being kicked out of the south central United States, which is crazy to think about. But sometimes this environment can allow these storms to travel for thousands of miles, and they can do so in a very concentrated nature as well. So I do have this model data. Again, we don't get into a ton of forecasting here on Central Florida Weather Live, but when we're talking about storms and kind of giving you guys a heads up of when I might next be on, that's what we're doing. You're not going to do any 5-day forecasting or anything like that. Lord knows you can get that anywhere these days. So I'm not interested in doing that here. I want to give you guys some stuff that you're not going to see anywhere else. So back over to the radar, and we're going to wrap things up here in just a minute. But you can see that the heavy rain is beginning to move into portions of Volusia County. Again, beachgoers, just be aware of that. Not a ton of lightning with this. Let me see if I can get the lightning data to come back on here real quick. There we go. So one lightning strike out of this in the last 15 minutes. So it's mainly just some solid rain right on down I-95, US 1 and A1A. There's our friends in Oak Hill, Mims, Titusville. A little bit more intense cell right there over the 407, 405. Again, crossing over towards the Cape where we have some showers developing there. So there's a little bit more of an intense segment, and that's the same one. That was exactly what the computer was actually picking up on out of just the eastern, assuming the southern sides of Bithlo. Sorry about that, zoomed out a little bit too far, but it was that cell that came out of Bithlo. And again, it's pinging on some pretty intense reflectivity. Now again, this is going to be south of Titusville and north of Sharps, if you know that area there. And again, crossing over and into the Cape. And you can see some of that heavier rain right down towards Cape Canaveral right now. So again, Banana River, Sharps, it's going to get pretty nasty. Again, watch out for the boaters there, both inland and then offshore as well. Sharps and Cocoa and Rockledge. There's our friends in Merritt Island. And again, showers and a few storms trying to hold together all the way back down towards places like Satellite Beach, Indian Harbor Beach. So today, it's southern Brevard County, like Mico, which got hammered a couple days ago, which are going to be quieter compared to our northern zones. But again, right now, nothing severe, although this is just one little decent core of some heavier rain. Let's take a look at the winds. Again, I don't want to leave you guys before we really analyze this. So that's not bad. 25, 30 mile an hour winds. And by the way, of course, because this is very close to the radar site, this is very close as far as ground data. As a matter of fact, yeah, I have this tool here. You want to take a look at it with me, guys? This is a great thing. So I could actually bring this on, and it's going to say exactly how far away and where we're looking relative to where the Melbourne radar is. So we're 30 miles away. Our beam height is about 2,000 feet. And we've got our half-degree tilt. And we're looking 343 degrees, so obviously 360 north. So again, this radar can do so many, or our weather system can do so many things in analyzing all of the radar information in real time. So when I talk about, right, looking at these winds closer to the surface level, when you're closer to the radar site, you're lower in the atmosphere, which gives you more ground truth data. So at the Sharps area, now we're only shooting at 1,300 feet, all right? And so you would anticipate that whatever wind we're picking up in this area is much more accurate at the ground level. When we get a little bit farther away, right? And I want to be clear, 3,000 feet is not horrible. Okay, but sometimes the winds can be stronger at 3,000 feet than they can be at the surface. So that's why I like to use all the different radar sites, because it allows me to get a very accurate description of what's going on here. So again, we're pinging decent winds out of this area, but nothing that appears to be any significance. And one quick look at potential hail size. And it does try and bring on maybe the smallest of hail. I don't even know if it's going to be a ½ inch, guys. Maybe some pea-sized hail northwest of Sharps. But you can see again that where the lightning core is, you have, if there is a hail opportunity, it's going to be right there. They all go together. The intense lightning, the hail threat. If we were in a shear environment with rotation, that's where I'd be looking for the opportunity for any tornadic activity. This is actually looking at the shear right now. And they're, you see blues and reds together, but the values are quite low. Just to kind of give you guys an idea of some of the things that I'll be looking at here as we move through some of the other events across Central Florida. So again, for our friends in northern Brevard County, that's a stronger storm that's not severe, and it won't be, but it's some very heavy rain for Mims and Titusville and Sharps moving across into the Cape. And then we're going to get some rain for Cocoa and Rockledge and Merritt Island. Again, for Metro Orlando, we're left over with some rain, and it's a little bit more widespread up north, but there's no other active weather here in Central Florida today. Charles says, wow, dark skies looking west from Cocoa Beach. Absolutely, Charles, absolutely. So Charles is looking over from Cocoa Beach. And again, there's Cocoa, and there's our friends at Cocoa Beach, right there. Hang on. A, I am in front of Cocoa Beach, and B, I still have that on. So anyway, let me zoom in a little bit more, Charles. For those who don't know where Cocoa Beach is, right in this area, again, across the waterways, there's Cocoa and Rockledge. And this is what Charles is more than likely looking at. And this is by far the most intense part of that line, right over Sharps right now. And Charles, this is going to miss you north. You're going to get caught with some of the weaker, and it's still going to be downpours and lightning, but as far as the extremely, extremely intense activity, we're not going to see that there. Following the leading edge of that, you can see how that will be moving across the waterways and towards towards the Cape. And I want you to notice, guys, that they did issue that special marine warning. And I'm glad they did. And the Weather Service in Melbourne, they're professionals. They're fantastic meteorologists. They know what they're doing. Have a lot of respect for them. And they know that they need to let mariners be aware of this ahead of time. So these storms have not moved offshore, but they're going to. And they want to let these mariners know what's coming their way. Now, the winds could be greater than 34 knots. The wind energy, again, is going to pick up as these cells move offshore, because we have a lot of friction on land, but there's much less friction along the water. And with these kind of segments that can hold together, the winds will actually increase more than likely as they move offshore. So it's a very wise idea to go ahead and issue this special marine warning for winds of over 34 knots. And it is going to be wind, but again, lightning will come along for the ride as well. So that's just a rough portion of that segment over the Sharps area. But again, it will be moving across the Cape. And again, Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. It's going to be very visually easy to see if you look out to the west, like Charles is talking about from Cocoa Beach, to see what is headed your way. And I hope those folks are taking the precautions to get back indoors. All the other attractions across Brevard County as well. And again, that rain goes as far south right now as basically the Melbourne area. So places like Palm Shores and Indian Harbor Beach, Satellite Beach will get into it. South of there, very spotty rain for Palm Bay and Mico. Opportunity that some of this might hold together in Osceola County. But generally speaking, I think it's the farther north that you go. Mims north is better, but you know, certainly Titusville and Sharps where we have this strongest storm right now. And again, moving off fairly quickly here, and elsewise, we're going to be quiet. Okay, friends, I think that's going to do it for the live coverage for today. Again, we've talked pretty much exactly what's happening here. There's not even a special weather statement at this point in time, but it's a stronger storm in the Titusville, Sharps area. The heavier rain, but in a non-severe threat, will continue for the northern areas. And again, generally speaking, we'll be drying out after that with a few showers extending back down to our south and to our west. David says, a client at Route 1 in Barnes and Rockledge just got dark, rumbly, and rain starting. Thank you very much, Nate. Nate there in the Rockledge area, appreciate you chiming in. Thank you so much for tuning in. So the bottom line is, guys, by far, the worst weather here is in northern sides of Brevard County. So Nathan is talking about he's here in the Rockledge area. He's looking north. He sees what's going on in Cocoa and Sharps. Again, noisy storm, dark, lower clouds. I call those SLCs, scary looking clouds. They have dark bases. They're low to the ground. No rotation out of any of this. That's great news. But again, I want to reiterate the fact that as these storms move offshore, they will probably intensify in the wind category. The wind fields won't be as disrupted as they move offshore. And now we have a special weather statement. How about that? Right in that area, guys. So at least I know what I'm talking about. We're focused in on the area that the Weather Service is looking at. So now we have a special weather statement for that zone. Not surprising, winds of 40 miles an hour. Let's get the information on it while I'm still on. So right there, let's see. And again, just to show you how quickly this system works, it's not even up on the website yet. So I'm gonna take a quick sip of water. But once it gets east of Sharps, quite honestly, we know that this is gonna get into basically uninhabited areas, right? We've got the Cape Canaveral area there. Up 3, I believe there is Wilson, but we're getting into a lot of government land here and a lot of areas that aren't very populated once we get east and into Cape. But still for Sharps and Cocoa, obviously this is a very heavily populated area right now. And you can see we've got 4 lightning strikes. It's mainly about the winds. And again, you can almost see that this is pushed out a little bit. So on the leading edge of that, I think that's where we're gonna get the 40-mile-an-hour winds if we get them. Again, it's not severe, and 40-mile-an-hour winds are going to only cause more than likely a few tree limbs to get knocked down. If you got any objects that aren't secured, like your trash bin that's empty or your gate that's not very well locked, it could fly open. But it's also going to provide some blinding rain. Again, one of the other issues is you don't want to be driving in this for the most part. If you can avoid that for a while, So Nathan, if you guys want to hang on, maybe you're going south. That would be good for your next stop, but I wouldn't want to be trying to jump on I-95 and going north or US 1 or 3 at this point in time. It's not going to stick around very long. These do have some pretty decent movements. Generally speaking, today it's been east at around 30. From time to time, it's gotten a little bit more as far as some forward speeds. But again, you can see this segment does go down to Mare Island. So Charles, you are technically included in the special weather statement. But again, just eyeballing it, I think you're going to avoid the worst part of this cell. It's going to stay just to your north. The Cape is going to get hit pretty hard, for sure. Any of the workers there at the Cape, associated with all the private and public entities going on at the Kennedy Space Center and NASA and all the other entities in general. A lot of workers there. It's a rough storm headed your way. If you know anyone who works in that area, you might want to give them a heads up and let them know. I've got some friends who I know who work in that area. Hopefully they're watching or they've got a way to stay weather aware. And again, if maybe you're just tuning in, you found us on YouTube. My name is Rusty McCranie, and this is Central Florida Weather Live. We are live right now at 11:25 on this Friday, tracking an intense storm in northern Brevard County. I've been on for a few hours because I've watched these storms go all the way from the west coast of Florida, across central Florida, and now beginning to exit the east coast here. And again, just keeping an eye on this particular cell in the northern sides of Brevard County. If you're here, thank you so much for liking this live stream by just clicking the thumbs up. Again, that gives us more visibility across YouTube, more interactions always help as well. If you're not a subscriber and you're looking for a channel that gives you live weather information, especially when things are going on, make sure you subscribe. Again, this is a live only channel. I'm only on when we have active weather in Central Florida. We're not talking about forecasts. There's not going to be any videos. This is a strictly live channel so that when you know I'm live, there's a reason you need to tune in. And because of that, my suggestion is to have the notifications on, because when you get the notification that I'm live, then you know that there's something you're going to want to tune in and keep an eye out for. And potentially, because I'm covering all of Central Florida, potentially on that given day, it's not something that you have to concern yourself with. So you can pop on, you can see what I'm covering. Maybe it's not in your area, or maybe it's not going to be in your area for a couple of hours, and you can go about with your day, go about your life, and maybe come back in later. Or maybe you're keeping an eye on what's happening here and now because you heard the rumbles of thunder and you know that the storms are headed your way and you want to get the latest information on what's going on in your area right now. So again, appreciate all those folks who come and stay for a while. And if you're popping in and out, I appreciate that as well. But you can see, again, more of an intense cell right over the Sharps area. Continue to move off. The special weather statement goes until 32 minutes from now. So basically towards the top of the hour at noon. And we still have some heavier rain Merritt Island south, but it's not nearly as intense right now, guys. This segment has actually weakened a bit. So it does just look like this one area in the northern side of Brevard County. Now the rain does extend, all the way into Jacksonville, okay? All of this rain extends all the way into Jacksonville, but that's what it is. It's just rain. Notice that the lightning strike counter certainly gets just higher here as we get into Brevard County. And so that's where we have this special weather statement for the next 32 minutes. Nate says he's heading south. Smart man. If you were heading north, Nate, I'd say stick around for a few minutes and let this pass you by. But if you're heading south, just be careful. Obviously, all the roadways are going to be wet. Hopefully, everyone is paying attention enough as well. Okay, friends, I think I'm going to wrap up our coverage here. The heaviest part of this cell is beginning to move out of our populated areas, and then it's going to be moving across our shoreline. Even where Charles is, there at Cocoa Beach, I'm not nearly as concerned there. Again, dark-looking clouds, scary-looking clouds, SLCs as I call them. But for the most part, this will be moving offshore. And again, for any mariners in the northern sides of Brevard County, we also have our special marine warning as well. And the Weather Service will keep a very close eye on this. And if they need to extend it for the offshore waters, they'll do that as well. They do a great job giving the boaters across our East Coast a heads up there in Melbourne. And Tampa does the same for the West Coast. Friends, let me do this real quick, get out to this broad view. I'm going to, one more time, if you hadn't seen, by the way, and the reason why I want to do this, maybe you're just tuning in. If you hadn't seen how this is played out real quick, Look at all that lightning that came on shore. And again, the radar will eventually catch up here and start looping as well. There you go. But I just wanted to show you why I came on. Early this morning, this was that bow segment that moved through. And by the way, you are seeing all of the watches and the warnings that were prompted out of this. Okay, but again, this segment came out of the Houston, Texas area. Look at that, and look how it's held together and moved through Central Florida this morning. So that's why I wanted to jump on, because it was a bit of a surprise that these storms held together. They did prompt a few severe thunderstorm warnings. They prompted several special weather statements for winds of up to 40 miles an hour. And obviously it was a wet, noisy day across Central Florida, but these storms are beginning to exit our east coast, sans the northern sides of Brevard County, where the weather for the remainder of the day should generally be quieter. That being said, the opportunity for a couple of isolated showers or storms later today, mainly right around sunset, and then potentially another round of a few storms sometime on Sunday morning. You know I'll be monitoring it for you, and if there's a reason to come back on live here at Central Florida Weather Live, I will absolutely do that. As we wrap up, thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. Thank you for liking this live stream. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. If you'd like to find other ways to support me here at Central Florida Weather Live, you can find those in the description of this live stream. I appreciate all the support we've already had. Thank you so much for helping this channel grow. Friends, have a great rest of your Friday. And when something's happening here weather-wise in Central Florida, I'll see you again soon.